Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve podcast takes a close-up look at controversial subject matter and hot-button topics, adding humor, cynicism, and a dose of reality to the stuff we're not supposed to talk about anymore. Politics, religion, sex, gender identity, violence, corruption. Nothing is left unturned in this lighthearted approach to information dissemination. The world is experiencing a pandemic of cowardice. 80% of people do not believe the craziness they've been coerced to agree with. Grab a friend, grab a beverage, and dive in with us as we take on the narrative and blast social stigmas with truth. Here are your hosts, Patriots Ray Amanat and Steve Reed.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, America, wherever you're at on TV land, social media land, YouTube, and everything else. Welcome to Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. I'm Ray Amanat, based in sunny Port Richey, Florida, and my co-host, Mr. Steve Reed, someone in an undisclosed safe house that is in northern Texas. Mr. Reed, welcome to the show.
How are you?
What do you know?
I don't know much of anything other than we are living in a crazy time.
Yes, we are. I mean, it's you turn on any news channel, well, not any news channel, any conservative news channel, and it's indictment after indictment after whatever. It's crazy. And one of the things that I think the politicians are going after are our Second Amendment rights, which is why we're excited to have our special guest today on a truly taboo topic with Mr. Doug Gould, who created pulling triggers and pulling cords. So if we can get Mr. Doug in. How you doing, Doug?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you?
Awesome. Welcome to our show, Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. So you can start us off. Can you give our viewing and listening audience a little background about yourself and what pulling triggers and pulling corks is all about?
Yeah, I had the great fortune that early on, my parents ended up giving me a firearm and taught me how to use it and sent me out. I don't know if they're trying to get rid of me or what, but started shooting really young. Here, go out. And for years, prior to going into the LA County Sheriff's Academy, that's what I was doing, and got there and got into law enforcement out of East Los Angeles and got to be a range master. So I got to, by the time I was 22 years old, I was a range master training other people on firearms. Been doing that for well over 30 plus years now, and got injured, got retired out, and got the great fortune to start learning about wine. Became a sommelier, of all the fancy words. And after some things coming up, exactly. And used to do week-long wine events down in Costa Rica, of all places. And people would fly down and do the Costa Rica thing during the day, and then later on we would do wine. And I moved from the fine state of California out to Texas to open up a wine bar, and still was doing, and that. Love that whole experience. So had a bunch of friends, and we'd get together and do stuff called Bullets, Beast, and Bourbon. And we would go shoot all sorts of fun stuff and then lock them all up. And then we'd have different stuff on the Green Egg or the Traeger and head over there and have a bourbon or two. So that became a event that I wanted to share with people. And there, between the bourbon and the wine, that was the pulling cork side, and of course the pulling triggers. And as I tell everybody, they go, "Oh my gosh, you drink and shoot." We're like, no, we go shooting, have a good time, lock everything up, make sure it's all locked up and secured, and then we have a beverage or two.
I was just going to ask you about the timing of
Me
that.
too.
It is all about, if you read, it's pulling triggers, then pulling corks. So that way we're safe.
So in a way, you're teaching people how to be responsible.
Yeah, and in all of the events that I do, we always start off with a very in-depth safety briefing and tell everybody, hey, at no time will alcohol be in the same vicinity at all with firearms. I still teach LTC out here. I taught hundreds of people to get their license to carry. In a lot of other states, they call it CCW, carry concealed weapons permit.
God, Doug. I'm so thankfully clarified that. I thought it was lesbian, transgender, and I don't know what the C
And
would stand.
yeah, kitties, but with a C. So yes. So yes, as Chappelle Day would say, it's the alphabet, people. So it's part of that. But it's LTC, license to carry a concealed weapon. And as both you gentlemen are aware, we had the unfortunate shooting in Allen, absolute tragedy. And afterwards, I said, I'm on a mission to be able to teach as many people as possible to, one, be able to operate a firearm in a safe way and to carry on a consistent basis so that if evil ever comes their way, they have the ability to defend themselves and their family and other people that they love. So
cool. I love it. I love it. Just the whole concept of what you're doing. You're making it an experience for people, that it's not just about shooting. It's the whole kit and caboodle, the whole experience of things, whether it's the bourbon or the shooting or wine or whatever the case is. You're blending the two different genres together, and it sounds like you have a lot of fun with that.
I have a tremendous amount of fun in there. I'm really kind of one of one. There's a lot of firearms instructors. There's a lot of sommeliers or whiskey experts. And the personalities of the two are generally very different. When you talk to a sommelier, yes, Biffy, what we have here is the nose on this Cabernet Sauvignon. And then he goes over and he talks and says, okay, this is an M4 full automatic weapon. The two usually don't go together and such. So I'm able to traverse the two worlds because I have a passion for them. And I love educating people. I love watching that experience when people go, oh my gosh, what an amazing day I had. I've never thought I would have a day like this. Or, I bought this as a present for somebody and they loved it. So
that is very cool. All right. So let's get into the real meat of our conversation today. That is the Second Amendment. How is the Second Amendment, from your perspective, how is the Second Amendment under attack all over the country? What's going on with that?
From every direction. How is it? It's, if you look at a lot of different cities that are ran by a lot of different folks from the left, they believe that if we enact another law, it's going to stop what's happening. All we have to do is come on the right law and we're going to stop having shootings. So this terrible thing called the Second Amendment that allows people to have guns, if we could just tear that down, all this will go away. And the fact that we have 400 million firearms in the United States out and about will tell anyone with any common sense that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, exactly.
So just like anything else, and when we had the tragedy and the shooting in Allen, where 8 people lost their lives, the same day 8 people lost their lives in Southwest Texas from someone in a car that ran them over.
Yeah.
But it had a blip on the radar, and then it didn't fit the agenda anymore. Nobody said, let's outlaw cars. The same, it was a tool that was used to take someone out. It's something that they constantly, every time they can, let's take the rights of 99.9% of people away because the 0.1% don't behave and don't do what they're supposed to.
Yeah. But, Doug, at the same time, I heard just in passing a news report several weeks ago about tons of, I don't remember what the chemical is, but one of the chemicals that's used that's used in fertilizer. And train loads of this stuff is gone. It's disappeared. And how many buildings, how many Oklahoma City federal buildings can be blown up with that sort of thing? But yet we don't talk about that.
Yeah, it's the nitrates. So basically, by taking the nitrates and adding it to diesel fuel, and that's what Tim McVeigh did up in Oklahoma. And he ended up making a compounded bomb that's out there. Anywhere someone has a will and desire to do evil, they'll find the tool to do it. Whether
Yeah.
it's a car, whether it's a bomb, whether it's knives or anything else. And people are like, well, if you take all the guns away, they won't have the ability to do that. And it's just not reality.
Yeah, that's very far from reality. But speaking of reality, what if there was a way, and I don't know if there is, but what if there was a way that you could learn how to defend yourself? And whether it's with a weapon of some sort or whether it's just with your bare hands, or maybe you could minimize the risk of having to defend yourself. Ray, do you think there's a way we could share some information about that?
I think if we cut to our commercial, it'll explain what people can do.
There we go.
So take it away.
Hi, welcome to Heroes in Action. I'm Ray Amanat, founder and creator of this training system. I originally made it so that everyone can train for free. We have programs for kids, for women, families, and businesses. I'm an author, speaker, and educator on everything that has to do with violence and bullying prevention education. If you'd like more information about who we are and what our programs are, please go to our website at heroesinaction.us or give me a call if you have any questions at 727-314-2534. We hope to see you here to train.
So, Ray, when did you get started with this whole thing with Heroes in Action?
Heroes in Action has been around for about 17 years.
Wow.
I've got over 40 plus years of teaching self-defense, martial arts, all those kind of things, both traditional and non-traditional. And Heroes in Action is a nonprofit organization where we provide all of our services for free. We don't charge a dime. If I go out of the state, if I have to leave Florida and go somewhere else, the only thing that we charge for would be our travel expenses,
Okay.
airfare, hotel, rental car, things like that. But the training is still always free. We try to get people to, once they see the value, if they want to make a donation to our foundation, the more donations that we get, once we reach a certain level of recurring donations, then we'll even take out the cost of travel and just make everything for free. That's my vision anyway. You can go to our website and or hit this QR code that you see for those of you that are watching, and just make a one-time or recurring donation. If you make a recurring donation of $25 or more, we're going to send you a training T-shirt that says Heroes in Action Training Seminars on it. As long as we have all your contact information and send it to you. So just go to heroesinaction.us and follow all the prompts for donating and help us raise the money to just do away with all costs. I don't want to charge a dime for everything that we do. There's people out there that are less fortunate than others and can't afford going to a martial arts school or going to a gun range to learn some type of safety for themselves. And we want to give them the option to be able to learn for free.
That is cool. So, Ray, I know we talked about this last week, and I'm still so impressed with what you did. But you have a new, I say new. You've got new students all the time, obviously.
Mhm.
But there is one type of student that I understand you have a real passion for. Why don't you share the story again about?
We're working with people with disabilities. I've got a new client that, again, it's for him. He has Down syndrome, and it's not teaching him how to hurt people. It's teaching him more how to escape somebody. A lot of times he's with a caregiver, so it's the caregiver that I train to do the physical side of stuff.
I
But
gotcha.
for him, it's learning, especially if they're limited on being verbal. He can say some words, but it's not very clear. So I'm working on the vocabulary to help him enunciate specific words that would draw attention to get the caregiver or innocent or
Gotcha.
bystanders
That
to
makes sense.
help him get out of a bad situation.
That makes sense. So then you're teaching both the student as well as the parent or the caregiver is a student as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is cool. That is cool.
The caregiver is the bodyguard for the person.
Yeah, but if we had the knowledge that Doug has about conceal and carry or whatever, then the caregiver could learn those things as well and have even more protection. So, Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit before, but that combination of multiple tools and not, and make it akin to being Wyatt Earp, in the sense back in the day, Wyatt Earp had two options, a fist or a gun. And what Ray's doing is gives a couple more options to that you might end up using a different tool to be able to solve the problem versus just going right to one of those other two. And I'm the biggest advocate in the world. I love pepper spray. I think that a great many times that is the appropriate tool to utilize along with some of the other things that are out there. So any tool is better than no tool. And the more that you have an option to go to, depending on the circumstance, that much the better.
Doug, you mentioning pepper spray. I've got a friend of mine that was, I want to say he was in the Army. I think that's where he was. But he went through all of the training. If you are captured, here's what you do, here's what to expect. And one of the trainings that he went through was he was put in a sealed room and they filled the room with pepper spray or whatever the noxious gas is or whatever. Well, fast forward many years, he was at a sales meeting one day, and there was a young gal that has a little pepper spray thing on her keychain, and she asked my buddy Andy if he would hold on to it while she's doing the meeting. And he said, sure, no problem. And he's just kind of flicking the thing on her key ring, and all of a sudden it went off. Alarms go off in this hotel, and he's just standing there. It's like, what's the problem? And he cleared the room. Fire department came, and he was asked to never hold on to anything ever again.
Yeah, I could see how he might have lost that card. You've lost the only pepper spray card.
Well, I think he lost some friends in the process too. So anyway.
So to let our viewing and more our listening audience know, we're talking with Doug Gould with Pulling Triggers and Pulling Corks. Every time an active shooting happens, you have a lot of politicians immediately go to say, let's take the guns. So when you see politicians making an end run on our Second Amendment, what can I usually say, look, you have responsible gun owners and you have criminals that have guns. It's not that they own them, they steal them. So what would you say with the politicians that kind of attack our Second Amendment? How do we address them?
Well, when you start a question using such a dirty word, it's kind of hard to jump in there, politician. It's like, right from the get-go, that for the most part, it's going to be something political. I think until we decide to remove that from the conversation and truly peel back and get to the truth of what's happening. 40 years ago, 30 years ago, people went to school with guns in their gun racks in their trucks.
Exactly.
And they're like, the weapons that are here today, the dreaded AR has been around since back then. Prior to that were other weapons that were able to take magazines that held 20, 30 rounds in them. So we have to ask why all of a sudden has things changed so much in the last couple decades and start really getting at that root problem. Until you address what the problem is that is causing this, saying that we just take the gun isn't going to solve it. They're going to find, and the vast majority of shootings aren't done with an AR, they're done with a handgun. Yeah. And so it's going to start with, let's get rid of the AR. Let's get rid of high capacity magazines. All right, now we need to get rid of A, B, C, or D. And until you look at why are these people that are doing this, doing it, and how do we address that, you'll never have a solution. And that's going to come from, quote, politicians putting their political party and agenda aside on that and saying, I really want to find a solution. Let's really knock it down. And then having a very hard conversation. A lot of this is going to be around mental illness. A lot of this is going to be about having taken any type of entity that is bigger than ourselves away. If you look at what is the number one determinant if someone's going to end up in prison, no father in the household.
Exactly.
It's a higher thing than the income, the education, the neighborhood, and saying, wow, when do we start addressing all of the different things that lead to that?
Absolutely.
And so when we talk about the politicians coming out and saying, we just need this next law, once somebody has decided to do the most nefarious thing possible, take another human's life, is there any law below that one that's going to matter? Yeah, we all know the answer. There's not.
I don't care. Yeah, that is so true. So it's getting fathers back in the house. It's changing the welfare system so that fathers aren't pushed out of house, so that baby mama can't keep reproducing and getting $500 or $1,000 checks per child, etc., all of those sorts of things. But it's really solidifying the value of the family and then getting back to what the family was 50 plus years ago, when we actually had morals and common sense and good judgment in families around the country. But we seem to have lost that.
Yeah, we've stripped so many things away from what the core family value was. And once you made it that the government was now dad and that they actually were rewarded, you can be rewarded for having children and more money. And you no longer had to be selective who you hung out with. It used to be, hey, look, he's got 2 goats, a cow, and teeth. He kind of ranks a little bit higher versus the person that doesn't have a job. If I'm going to end up having a child with this person, I want them to be able to support me. I want to be able to have a good life. Yeah. And now it's like, hey, the more kids I have, the bigger the check that comes in. What does it matter?
But Doug, there's a different aspect of things too. And Ray, you need to jump in on this, but there is a new push that I'm starting to hear, and that is about masculinity. And the world over the past 30, 40 years has been trying to feminize men. And it's all about feelings and so forth. And they're taking away that raw, brute courage, strength, masculinity. And look what's happening to our society, and we're taking that away. So there's a movement, a push to bring that back in and get real men to stand up as real men once again.
So, Doug, quick question. How many transgender people have you seen come in to buy firearms?
I have not seen any.
So if they're feminizing men to not want to buy guns, that could be another way of getting guns off the street or guns out of the homes, because oh my gosh, we don't want guns. I'm not trying to make fun. Well, maybe, who knows?
Yeah, you are. And you do that very well, Ray. I commend you on that. You do that very well. All right, so Doug, let's get back to some of the gun laws that are going on right now. What are your thoughts about this whole mindset of constitutional carry? What's the benefit, value, whatever?
As someone that lives, eats, and breathes our Constitution, that loves it, I absolutely believe in the Second Amendment. Okay. So in that, on the constitutional carry, I'm standing high and giving a thumbs up. As someone that is an educator and a trainer, and I have run, now that we've passed constitutional carry or permitless carry here in Texas, right? You don't have to, but I still have a lot of people that show up for my LTC classes that carry concealed and as such. Now, these are folks that are supposed to know what they're doing and everything else. And I find that some of them still need a little bit more lessons. So the educator in me says 49%, I would love everyone to have to have education. The constitutionalist in me, the 51, says, you know what? I believe that the constitutional carries really well. the totality of that would say, if you don't decide to get your LTC, please get training, because we want all of us to be the best product we can be, and utilize that tool to the utmost and be safe with that, and not endanger ourselves or others. And it is, just like with anything else, a tool can be phenomenal, or it can end up causing some grief.
Well, you were making the example of 8 people got killed, and then 8 people by a gun, and then 8 people got killed by a car. You need to get a driver's license and go get training to learn how to drive before you get your driver's license. I agree. Constitutional carry for me is scary, because you're going to have a lot of people that own guns that don't have the training. And if they don't have the training for being responsible gun owners, if they get mad or upset, is that going to be the first thing they go for, versus learning or being trained to verbally diffuse, de-escalate, walk away from, or do whatever else you can to avoid a conflict that doesn't have to escalate it to something that turns physical, where you might need a firearm. That's where the training comes in. And I wish they would put some type of component in there that it might not be a conceal and carry, but you need to get some kind of training as a requirement for that constitutional carry.
And this is that 5149, and it depends on which way the wind blows. Right after I run a LTC and I shoot the 60 people through on qualifications, and some of them aren't the best, I'm like, yeah, maybe we need to mandate a little bit more training. But then the other voice comes back and says, no, per the Constitution. Oh, what I would love to see is, just like with a lot of things that societally wise, if we are going to carry, we step up and get the training. I hate whenever we ask government to get in our lives in any way, shape, or form. Everything that they touch, they generally end up screwing up. So if we had more of a community, or the fact that it was just a pressure that, hey, if you're going to carry a gun, you've been trained, you've done this, you've done that. I know, and I am awfully optimistic on this, and maybe it's not reality 101, but I would much rather see it be self-imposed than government imposed, or community imposed.
Absolutely. But back in the day, they had gun clubs in high schools, and the Boy Scouts.
Well, absolutely.
Now it's the whatever Scouts. Whatever you decide you want for today. But the Boy Scouts used to have a merit badge for shooting.
My first gun was a 22 single shot bolt action BSA, Boy Scouts of America rifle. And they made this gun specifically for Boy Scouts. It's the one I got when I was 6 years old. And I was out shooting. And there was guns all over in the home that I grew up in. Yep. And I was told right from day one, you don't touch these ever. And if I did, I'd probably have a knot on the top of my head from not listening to, when I was told you don't do this. And and I never did end up touching them. Do I advocate that? No, I don't. But, for a couple hundred years, there was firearms in the homes everywhere. And we were taught, don't do this, don't. Yeah. And now, yes, we need to be a better product. We need to be safer. I get that. But again, it's about education. It's about having a respect.
Yeah. Now we need to go to another commercial break, and we're going to change topics completely, because I want to talk about you feeling younger and actually healing faster.
We all hope to age gracefully so we can enjoy our later years full of energy, vitality, and good health. But so often with age, our bodies start to show signs that things just aren't as they used to be. Our energy, skin, healing and recovery time, sleep, it all just seems to go downhill. Introducing LifeWave X39, the world's first product ever to activate stem cells, a true breakthrough in regenerative science that helps restore our bodies to a healthier, more youthful state in a way no other product can. No drugs, no injections, no kidding.
And this little guy is what that commercial, what that video clip is talking about. This little patch, you just peel off the back, stick it on your body anywhere. It activates your stem cells. And the science is about 10 years in the making. And the company that developed the product has been around for 19 years. They started out by developing an energy patch for the U.S. Navy SEALs because they need to have sustained energy. Well, over the years, the scientist, the founder of the company, David Schmidt, he said, there's got to be something that I can do to stimulate and activate stem cells. And he had gone back to some research that was done back in the 70s with a copper peptide that actually activates stem cells. And he figured out how to get that copper peptide moving in our system. So I am very excited with the product, but just a couple of real quick things that you get by activating your stem cells: better sleep, more energy, better focus, faster pain relief, faster wound healing. It actually tells your body to produce collagen, and it tightens up your face muscles so you reduce wrinkles. Stamina is improved in your exercise and faster recovery from exercise. So you've got absolutely nothing to lose. In fact, the company gives a 30-day money-back guarantee on the product. So if you want information, I would love to help you out. And let me see if I can pull my email address up here. And I'll put my email address. Well, we'll just go with it like this. And you can reach out to me at http whatever all that nonsense is up in the front. It's Lifewave, LIFEWAVE.com/Stephen Reed, STEPHENREED. So I'd love to get you some information about that. Or you can go to another amazing website, which is startx39now.com. startx39now.com. So right back to you.
All right, we are, for our listening and viewing audience, we're with Mr. Doug Gould on a discussion about our Second Amendment. What can we do about gun violence on a macro level, and can you give us some examples?
I think, again, it goes back to the education and understanding what's driving the shootings that we're having. One of the things that so is also making people responsible. If you're looking at the gun violence itself, when I was in California, when I was in law enforcement, we passed the 3 strikes law. And when that happened, crime dropped tremendously because you only had X amount of people that were willing to constantly use a firearm. Well, as we know, they've now decided that that doesn't mean anything in California. They're letting a lot of these people back out. And hey, surprise, surprise, crime is starting to skyrocket again because there's no consequence for the action. It used to be that if you had your 3rd strike, you were going to prison for 25 years. And it was a deterrent on 2 ways. One, you might not want to do that. But number 2, if the people that are willing to do that, if we lock them up, there's only X amount of them. So that had dropped tremendously the amount of shootings that we had out of East Los Angeles, where I worked, and also in the LA area, just talking to homicide detectives that I knew, like, oh yeah, that was one of the greatest things ever. It was that law there. So as far as gun violence itself, the mass shootings that we're having, the ones where somebody's walking into a place, that one's going to be a lot deeper, and it's going to take a totality of people from many different fields to come in on that. There is no one answer, one all-encompassing magic pill. It's going to be a lot. We're going to have to make a lot of targets. We're going to have to harden them, and that's just a reality. And we don't want to. We all want to have this really wonderful, warm, cozy world. Unfortunately, we're not there. And there's other countries in this world that have realized that they're not, and they've done things to harden up the targets that these people are going after. Yeah. And it's something we're going to have to take a look at.
So for our audience to understand, not a lot of people will follow the lingo of harden the target. I understand. Can you explain it to the audience?
Yeah. So where the shootings at the schools, is make it that somebody can't just walk through a door or come up and shoot. So change the glass out, have doors that are locked, perhaps a double doored system that they can lock people out. Within the classrooms themselves, locking doors, that if somebody were to breach the first door and get in, that they would be able to lock the classrooms themselves. That's there. Number two, whether a teacher or where you're at, if somebody within the school was able to be armed, not just a police officer or school, but if they wanted to take all the training and they wanted to learn how to use that tool to defend, it gives one more level to security, that they're not waiting for others to show up that have a skill set. They have a skill set that's already there at the school. And certainly anybody that's willing to go through the training, and we can mandate it just like somebody going through the police academy or the sheriff's academy or anything else. This is the amount of hours that you need to be able to carry. And if we trust that when we put someone through the police academy, that after X amount of firearms training that they're ready, then we should give that same credit to a teacher if they're willing to do that.
That makes total sense. Hey guys, I forgot to put this up beforehand, folks. This is an opinion-based program. Now, we happen to back up our opinions with facts and truth, but this is our opinions, and we highly respect Doug and his opinions, but more so his experience in this field for 30 plus years. So he has seen it all. So does not necessarily reflect our sponsors and affiliates and our guests. Thankfully, Doug, for being our guest today. But this is an opinion-based program that is based in fact. So now that we've gotten that out of the way. So, Doug, you talked about hardening targets. Those are the kinds of things that we could do on a big level. What about the micro level? What are some of the things that we can do in our own communities, our towns, our neighbors, our families, et cetera? What do you think?
So thank goodness I live in the fine state of Texas, and they actually still allow us to protect ourselves here. And I just did a concealed carry class for friends and family that I said, look, I've said you should. Now I'm saying you will be here on this day. And I want each one of you to get to a point that if you are out and about, and I love law enforcement, but the saying is law enforcement will be there in minutes when seconds count. We need to be able to control our seconds. And you'll see multiple times that somebody that had a firearm on them stopped a crime. And when somebody was going to do something, that somebody, and it's almost cliche, but how do you stop a bad man with a gun? A good man or a good woman with a gun. Yeah. And so on a micro, learning all of the other things as far as being aware of your surroundings and just kind of stepping into the 2020s and just being honest with yourself, the environment that we're in, and being able to adjust the best that you can.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were saying, bad man with a gun, good man with a gun. That reminds me, I was in the insurance world for over 20 years. And we used a phrase, it's better to have insurance and not need it than it is to not have it and need it. So are you saying basically the same thing, the training and having a weapon with you, it's better to have that and not need it than it is to be in a situation like the Allen shooting a month or so ago, and you're standing there totally defenseless?
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't ended up getting the full debrief on that, but from what had come out earlier, that the shooter on that had gone there. He knew that there was signs up saying it was a quote gun-free zone, and he knew the busiest times that people were going to be there. So this picked out the shooting in Colorado. Multiple shootings, people have gone, and they've found the one in Aurora. He had gone by 2 or 3 other movie theaters that allowed people to carry guns there, and went to one that did not allow them to do that. So they were looking for a place that somebody wasn't able to defend themselves. If
Right.
we are, if each one of us, if somebody was going somewhere, they go, you know what, there's 20 people, the odds that 19 are going to have a firearm, it is a tremendous deterrent for them to come up and do something because they believe that it's going to end very quickly for them.
Yeah. So pulling out a weapon in a Cabela's or a, Bass Pro Shop or something like Gun Club, that's probably not a smart thing to do.
It's probably going to be over relatively soon. Yeah. Never say never when someone's going to do that, but you don't usually see that when these shootings happen, that they go to places that they're going to find multiple people with firearms. They go where they're going to find people that are unarmed and not able to defend themselves.
And that reminds me of two incidents that happened. I don't remember where the first one was, but there was a guy, I want to say it was his girlfriend in a food court in a shopping center at a mall, and somebody pulls out a gun. This guy had a weapon with him. He was properly trained. He was licensed to carry, etc. And he took the shooter out very quickly. I mean, it was within seconds.
It was about a 40-yard shot. It was a very long shot, too, that he ended up doing. And we use that one as an example of somebody that stopped. And the same thing with the church shooting where the former FBI guy ended up after he shot two. He ended up nullifying everything very, very quickly with that. And it was, you had a good guy that had a skill set and he was able to neutralize him very fast.
Comes back to training, everybody. Comes back to training.
Yeah. And we need to go to another commercial break. And this is talking about the amazing network that we are affiliated with, OBBM Network.
Now your DFW events can be listed on the DFW events segment of OBBM Network News. New episodes posted each week are reaching people right here in your own backyard. Get in on this. Now it's affordable to reach thousands of people in new markets, offering exposure to your professional network like never before. Get us your listing by Tuesday at noon, and you'll be included in the following week's release on Monday. Email info@offbeatbusiness.com for our digital media kit and discover a better way to reach DFW. Not hosting events? Your business will benefit from the exposure our events list generates. Take advantage of brand exposure on the ticker or with the logo graphic, video advertisement, even a QR code. Click on our QR code to access our digital media kit now.
And while OBBM Network is based here in North Texas and North Dallas, they have a reach that is growing literally coast to coast. So if you want to get information on how to advertise and promote your business on OBBM Network, just hang loose and I'll find an email for Susan and we'll go from there. No, that's not it. That's not it. I don't mind promoting.
We truly appreciate the OBBM Network for having us on their network. Giving us that freedom of speech, voice to reach more and more people. So we're really grateful for that.
Well, I can't find Susan's. There's Susan's email. Okay, Susan at offbeatbusiness.com. Offbeat Business Network. So
Doug, I listen to a lot of talk shows, radio talk shows and blogs. And I hear commercials about the Hero gun, which is it shoots pepper balls instead of bullets. I personally think that every teacher should be able to have one with the training to be able to ambush somebody that's trying to be an active shooter on campus. But what are your thoughts and what is your recommendation for the types of concealed weapons people should consider?
Well, as we kind of said earlier, I think that something is better than nothing. And if the tool itself will end up working to be able to stop the threat, generally you want to meet force with an equal force. If somebody is coming in with a firearm, that a firearm is going to be the option. If someone is coming in with a physical threat, not a firearm, pepper spray or some of the other tools that are out there might be very good. The problem with coming up with something like a pepper spray against a firearm is you're probably going to quite often end up losing that one. But as I said, something is better than nothing.
Sounds
So,
What about what type of firearm or weapon would you recommend our listeners and viewers for concealed weapons?
I was running a class and a gentleman asked me a question. Hey, what firearm do you recommend? And I said, what song do you recommend? And he looks at me and he goes, no, what firearm do you recommend? And I said, what song? And I said, it depends on the shooter, the size of their hand.
Yeah.
What age are they? How are their eyes? And when I work with my students on a one-on-one, we usually go from anywhere from 5 to 8 different firearms to see what fits their hands, the trigger pull, the sight alignment. There is no magic. This is the one. You'll get some people, hey, it's the 45. You got to have it. Or it's the this or the that.
Yeah.
And I've had so many people. I just recently had a student. She showed up with a firearm. She couldn't stand it. Well, why'd you get it? Well, my boyfriend said it was amazing. So now she'll be selling that $700 firearm and buying, one that when we went through multiple firearms, she goes, I love this one. I wish you had told me about that. So I would tell everybody to get with a coach, trainer, somebody else, go through quite a few. The contemporary firearms are absolutely amazing. They're just some phenomenal things. Yeah. And you can find the one that's the right fit for you. But take the time, be patient, and go through and try quite a few of them before you just go out and purchase one.
But Doug, I understand that a lot of the gun clubs, if you go and you want to do shooting in a gun club and you don't want to take your weapon or you don't have one, I'm guessing you could probably rent different handguns right there at that facility in most cases, and then practice and try what feels best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Here in North Texas, there's a ton of different firearms or ranges. And when you go in there, you can end up asking them, hey, what's the top 5 firearms that you think people are using for their everyday carry? It's called EDC, their everyday carry. And they would be able to recommend this one, this one, this one, and this one. If not, I kind of cringe at saying this sometimes, but YouTube is a pretty good place that if you go and you type in the 5 best concealed carry guns, and you see 5 videos that say the same thing, you're probably going to be in the right ballpark.
Right.
Give those a shot and find out,
so to speak.
You know what? Literally and figuratively. So, that's there. But absolutely, before you go out and spend the money on one, put a little bit of time into it, and then I would end up spend the money for a private instructor, and they should be able to take you further, faster, and get you to your destination versus trying to just muddle through it yourself.
Right.
And I would assume also you want to recommend that people have some type of a gun safety course before they go to the range.
Yeah, I would
get the
absolutely highly recommend. I'll be teaching a Pistol 101 course coming up here with some folks. And basically, we just start from the very, very beginning on the foundation to talk about firearm safety all the way through till the end of it. We will be out on the range and we will be shooting. But long before we ever get out there, we will go through all of the different aspects of safety.
So I'm guessing you're kind of like Vince Lombardi when he would start out a football season. Man, this is a football. So you're going to start out with, men, ladies, kids, this is a gun. So you're going to start with the basics.
Yeah, and even before that, even before we ever touch it, the first thing I tell them is always assume every gun is loaded. Even though you've looked at it 10 different times, we always assume. Yeah. And there's 4 basic rules that I won't go into right now, but even before I ever hold it up and say this is a gun, these are the 4 basic rules when I do show you what the gun is that we will always follow, and you won't have a tragic moment.
Excellent. Well, Doug, it has been a pleasure having you on the broadcast today. We need to have you back over and over again because this is good stuff, and it's practical stuff that we need to use and have access to on a regular basis. So we've put your email address up on numerous occasions today. So you're in the North Texas area, in North Plano, McKinney, Frisco, Salina, Prosper, in this whole northern area. So, folks, if you want to reach out and you want to have some quality education and a good firsthand experience, I highly recommend you reach out to Doug. So I know he's going to take good care of you.
Ray, Steve, thank you guys so much for having me. Look forward to our paths crossing down the road a little bit. And
thanks for
continuing the
being on.
conversation.
Thanks for being on our show, and hopefully we can set something up where I come out and collaborate a seminar with you in Texas, where we can do the show live together, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely.
And give me an opportunity to share my expertise along with Doug's expertise to whoever's interested in learning or wanting more training.
Maybe at one of the gun clubs. It would be fun to have something live at one of the gun clubs. So anyway,
everything starts with an idea.
And folks, we encourage you to like, share, comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel, but like the stuff and share it with other people. This is a message that everybody needs to know. We've got to get some sanity back in our country and some morality back in our society as well. So,
absolutely.
Ray, Doug, it has been a blast. Yes, Ray.
We'll see you guys.
See you next time.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. If you have suggestions for topics you would like us to discuss, or you would like to become a sponsor, reach out to us today at tabootalkwithrayansteve@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out the other amazing programs on OBBM Network on all your favorite podcast platforms. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Join us again for another fun and informative opinion-based episode. This is Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve.